Hello everyone, this is Craig from Asset Horizon, and tonight I wanted to do something special for everyone. I wanted to talk to you about the Philosopher's Tarot, now out on Repeater Books. Some of you had asked, will I be putting out some videos on the cards or doing a deep dive or showing you the minor arcana and all those sorts of things? And I thought, yes, I need to do that. Tonight, I would like to show to you a series of cards, 4 cards in fact, and they are the aces in the deck. So I'm looking here at the Ace of Wands, the Ace of Swords, the Ace of Cups, and the Ace of Pentacles. Now, truth be told, when I started creating this deck, which kind of happened as a joke, I didn't know a whole lot about the tarot, to be honest. In fact, I learned along the way. But one of the first things that I did learn was that the aces have a very special role in the deck. And if you are readers of the philosophers Deleuze and Guattari, there's a very sort of Deleuze-Guattarian dimension to these cards. These cards are like 0 points, almost like bodies without organs, in the sense that they represent potencies, virtualities, or pure intensities. And that's something that I wanted to capture when I re-rendered these cards. And another thing that I wanted to do with this deck is I wanted to have a good time. I wanted to do some cheeky inversions. And I wanted to recast some of the images and the themes of the card in new and interesting ways. And one of the themes that I wanted to appear on certain cards, and on these cards in particular, was the theme of refusal or inversion. So the aces in particular in the deck have this theme of refusal that I'll talk about. So the first card in the deck is this card here, Acid Communism. Now, if you follow the podcast or if you've read the work of Mark Fisher, you might already know what acid communism is. So what is it? Well, actually, maybe there's another concept we have to talk about first. It's Mark Fisher's concept of capitalist realism. And simply put, it goes like this. The whole of the 19th and 20th century saw the growth of the communist and socialist movement. But also during that time, we saw the collapse of the Soviet Union and other communist countries besides, leaving this singular system of socioeconomic management that we know as global capitalism today. And it's no secret that capitalism is not good at delivering on all of its promises. Right? We have incessant wars, constant profiteering, and the ever-deepening ecological crisis. So the basic idea of capitalist realism is, with capitalism being the only system that's left, it seems as if it's easier to imagine the end of the world than it is to imagine the end of capitalism. Well, this is the system that we're left with. What comes next? Well, Fisher then envisioned this other concept, acid communism. What he believed was that beneath the crust of the current capitalist order were these other potencies that were swirling, lost futures, these ideas about a new world or seeking to be realized and would peek through the cracks here and there in cultural phenomenon. And this work, Acid Communism, which is an essay by Mark Fisher, is essentially unfinished. But the fundamental idea was this: we need to find ways to tease out those tendencies and those intentions that we have to create a more sound society and world. And so here on the Acid Communist card, we have this little figure with a sledgehammer cracking the gray television set beneath him and releasing this swirl of new intensities. So the original Ace of Wands card is about creativity, enthusiasm, and this sort of release of energy. And I think this idea of acid communism captures that very well. Now, the next card in the deck that I want to talk about is this, base materialism. This is a concept by George Bataille. And base materialism, well, let's take a look at the card itself. I'll throw it up on the screen here. We have a picture of, this chalice in this little wafer here. Well, this was originally meant to signify the Eucharist. But what I wanted to do in the manner of George Bataille was take this symbol of divinity and profane it, turn it on its head. So rather than having the pure communion wafer, now we have this dark token in the beak of this crow or raven here. And then we have this ashen hand poking through this farty little cloud on the side, and we have nothing but urine and some other scatty sort of things pouring out from the chalice. One of the philosophical problems that Bataille confronted throughout his entire corpus of works was the problem of rationality, work, and utility. So this idea of base materialism is in some sense a way for us to reconnect with these sort of composite elements of our being. And so here we have things like pus, blood, semen, urine, filth, shit, everything else. Psychoanalyst James Hillman once said that diarrhea is the great leveler. Now, why is that important here? Well, as human beings often striving to achieve a rational world of utility, we exclude all of these other elements of who we are. And the idea that something like these base fluids compose all of us in some ways brings us back in touch with the continuity of our being, which is often lost in the sort of discontinuous creation of ourselves, the separation of human from animal. I mean, just think of all the wildlife that we've killed in the past 50 years on this planet just to create the so-called rational order that we have today. And so I wanted to catch a kind of scent of that here by honoring Bataille's concept of base materialism here on the Ace of Cups. Now, the next card that I want to talk about is the Ace of Swords, or the Clinamen. Now, as I understand it, the Ace of Swords has to do with the intellect, with clarity, with mentality. I thought this would be an interesting way to bring in the notion of the Clinamen, which historically is associated with the philosopher Epicurus, but also with Lucretius. The concept of the Clinamen, or the swerve, was this idea that matter could move in these sort of unpredictable and aleatory ways. This was seen as a conceptual improvement upon the theories of Democritus, who believed that atoms just kind of piled up or fell down like rain. This idea of the Clinamen was later studied by Karl Marx, who then used the Lucretian and Epicurean ontology to construct his theory of capital later on. And so what I like about using the Clinamen for the Ace of Swords is this creation of new concepts is that which affords us new mental clarity, right? Or this new intellectual paradigm with which to view problems in the world. And maybe that's a way that you can use it too. And so the final card that I would like to talk about today is the Ace of Pentacles, or the Sacred Conspiracy. One of the challenges that I have with the tarot is the idea of the pentacles, referring to a kind of material wealth or an individual form of prosperity. Now, while I think those things are important to a certain extent, I also think it's important that our material wealth and our sense of abundance refers to the kinds of communities that we're creating. And so for this very reason, I chose the Sacred Conspiracy, which refers to the group Acephale, created by George Bataille and his comrades, a secret society that constructed itself in opposition not only to fascism, but the Stalinism of the mid-century. And so I just wanted to give you a brief overview of a few interesting cards in the deck. And if you've already acquired one of these, I just want to say thank you. And if you're thinking about purchasing it in the future, I want to say thank you in advance. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. I look forward to hearing from you. Okay, take care for now.